It's a beautiful morning. We're here for another episode of Adventures in Landscaping. Having a cup of coffee on the key element to any landscape. It's your front yard. It's a beautiful place to be in the morning. After it's been mowed and watered, you can sit out here and enjoy it under the shade of a beautiful tree. So today we're going to talk about all the different aspects of how to maintain and keep a nice lawn. When to water, how much to water, what kind of fertilizer to put on, when to put on fertilizer, and how to get rid of weeds and bugs that we don't want in our lawn. We're going to go see a friend of mine. His name's Rob, and he's an expert, a professional in yard care and maintenance. We're going to go talk to him about these things. So let's jump in the bug and head out for another adventure in landscaping.
Hey Chris, how you doing?
Good, my friend.
Good to see you.
How you been?
Doing well, doing well.
Boy, you're looking good here.
Yeah, staying busy. Yeah.
Working in the yard?
Yeah, a little bit.
Keeping it nice?
Yeah.
Good. Hey, so like I talked to you last night on the phone, I want to get some ideas for people about sprays and fertilizers and when to water, when to kill bugs. Everybody wants to know those things.
Okay.
And everybody seems like they have a different idea.
Yeah, it's mainly with fertilizing and all that, especially the lawns, it's all a matter of temperature, ground temperature. So what we're looking at is things start germinating and picking up around about 50 degrees or so, ground temp.
Oh, nice.
And then into different weeds will come up, like crabgrass and Bermuda will come up at about 62 degrees.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
so we don't have to worry about those for a little bit.
So some parts of the country, it's too late to put these things on now.
Yes.
Whereas other parts of the country, they're still thawing out.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So in Redding, we sometimes get that real hot February like we did this year.
Right.
And so a lot of crabgrass and even Bermuda started coming up then.
A little earlier than normal.
Yeah, so if you're going to put down a pre-emergent to stop all that, now you're too late.
Okay.
So it's so now
to
it's
keep in mind for next year.
for next year,
Okay.
right? So so what we're looking at now is basically just damage control, mainly spraying to get the weeds out.
Okay.
And so that would be your best option right now.
Good.
Go ahead. I like using a product called Q4. It's a broad spectrum. It will get nutsedge. It'll do most of your broadleaf weeds and leave the fescue alone.
Okay.
So works really well.
Nice.
And it's not too expensive.
Oh, good.
As far as that.
Yeah, because the homeowner, you know, they're a lot of times on a budget. I was telling, I was looking last night actually, and I wanted to see how much people spend on lawn care and keeping up a nice yard.
It doesn't have to be too much.
Exactly. It averaged about $90 a year, $90 to $100 a year is what the average homeowner spends on fertilizer and
If you keep up
things
with
such
it.
as that.
If
Right.
it really gets away from you, then it can get a little costly. But if you've got a decent lawn and like right now would be a good time to be throwing seed down.
Okay.
It isn't too hot. And so if you wanted to spray and get rid of some of the weeds, even if it's you know 30% of the lawn, you
Right.
could still go ahead and do it. And in a week or two, go ahead and throw some seed out and get that back again. So it's that part isn't too expensive.
Right.
You can go get a 10-pound bag of seed and that'll cover.
And we're not too late in the season right now to do that?
No, not quite.
Okay.
Later on during summer, it will get too hot because you've got to keep that new seed moist. And by keeping it moist, constantly and keeping it warm, you're kind of inviting fungus.
Oh.
So there's kind of that's why we like to do it in the cooler weather.
Right.
So like spring and fall is actually a really good time to put seed down.
Okay.
Because you don't have to contend with a lot of the spring weeds.
Right.
So
let me ask you this, Rob. With watering your yard, when you're watering your yard and you're trying to either get that grass growing or get it green at the start of the season, when is the best time to water your yard during the day or night, or what is it?
I like to start really early in the morning. I like to start 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. That way, and how do I put it? The ideal situation would be water less frequently, but for longer periods. Get that water soaked into the ground, okay? Make sure it's not running off, but get it soaked into the ground. The roots will follow.
Okay.
The deeper the roots, the more drought tolerant it is.
And so when you water, if you're a type of person that goes, well, it's 9, 10 o'clock at night in the evening, it's cooled down, I think I'm gonna water my yard.
Again.
And that water sits on there all night.
Yep, again, that's the other problem, especially during summer. It does tend to stay warm. We've got an inversion layer that settles. You can feel the humidity at night, and now you're adding water to the lawn. Again, fungus. So if you start early in the morning, that lawn has the rest of the day to dry out. Not the soil, but the lawn itself. Then, like in my case, I'll water every other day. Again, that less frequent, but deeper. So I'll water every other day, which makes it, I get all day for it to dry out, and all the next day stays dry. I get very little fungus.
When it comes to pre-emergents and fertilizers and getting our lawn ready to come out of that winter phase, what's the first thing that we want to do? I see that you brought several things along here.
Yeah, coming out of winter, you want to give it a good fertilizer.
Okay.
You want to feed it. Typically, we don't do any feeding over winter. Metabolism on the plants, they just don't absorb anything. So I like using the N-Flexx. It's a 22-410.
Okay.
About a third of its nitrogen will release very quickly. The other 2/3 is a slow release. And this will give you, throughout the season, it'll give you a good 8 weeks of fertilizer.
Okay, so good.
Okay.
So let me ask you this though. We're dealing with a lot of people that don't really know how to read the numbers on a bag of fertilizer and what the numbers stand for. And can you help us out a little bit? If you look at these numbers here, what is this?
It's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Okay.
And this is the percentage of each in this bag.
Okay.
So this bag has 22% nitrogen in it.
Okay. And
per pound.
What typically does the nitrogen do?
Nitrogen is usually top growth.
Okay.
Okay. So your top, down, and all around. So your middle number will always be for your roots.
Okay.
So right now we're looking at, we don't really want to we want to give it more top growth.
Okay.
Get it moving. Okay. Not too concerned about roots at the moment. And then the all around health also.
Okay. Now do you recommend using a different one when the temperatures heat up or stay cool?
As long as you can water it in, and all fertilizers need to be watered in as soon as possible. No, I use this all year round.
Is there one that burns? Because I've heard people say that they put fertilizer on and they burn their lawn. What's
typically
that mean?
from not, yeah, that's typically from not watering it in right away. The salt starts wicking out the water, and this is a lot of salt. So if you leave it on there and in direct contact with the leaf of the grass,
right,
it'll absorb that water, and that's what that burn is. This one also has, you'll see, almost 6% iron in it. Iron will tend to green up any plant.
Okay, because that's what we're looking for, the
that
real
brings
green.
out that dark green.
Okay,
right.
Nice.
Now, you also mentioned, though, how many times to fertilize. You're looking on an average lawn 4 to 5 times a year.
Perfect.
A lot of people sit there and go, well, I did it once and my lawn's not looking so good.
You mean once isn't good enough?
No.
One time, hear that? Your yard needs to eat food, right?
Right.
All right, Rob, so I think that covers fertilizers pretty good. So do we just start on this, or is there something that we need to put down before we do fertilizer for weeds?
No, go ahead and start with the fertilizer, make sure the lawn's fed. If the lawn's in good shape and you don't need to spray, you don't need to do anything else, this is earlier in the season, before the spring, before the weeds have come up. If it's in good shape, go ahead and hit it with a pre-emergent. You put it down a couple of pounds per 1,000, and it goes down much like fertilizer. You water it in, and it does its thing.
That's nice, and then it keeps your lawn weed free, so that prevents having to go around and spray later on.
Correct.
As all these dandelions and other types of weeds in our area or any area, no matter where you're at, this is a good product because it kills so many different weeds, and right on the label is listed what types of weeds it kills. What about bugs? What do we do for that?
Bugs, we do get into that quite a bit here, mainly grub, cutworm, armyworm.
How do you tell? Let me ask you this. Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt, but how do you tell what the problem is? So like if you see a dead spot in your grass, how do you know what kind of, if it's a bug or?
There are a couple of ways to do it. One of the easiest is you literally walk up and grab a tuft of dead weed or dead lawn.
Sure.
If it comes up very easily, like it has no roots to it, chances are it was bugs. They ate the roots away. If you have to tug on it, chances are it may be a fungus, it may be something
something else that's contributing to it.
So that's one way. The other thing too is if you have grubs, you may end up, I find a lot of customers have problems with skunks, raccoons.
Yes, I've seen them dig through there.
Yeah, they are going after the insects. Moles are another problem. So they like feeding off of them.
Sure. I've seen bees and hornets fly down.
Wasp will actually grab the grubs and take them back to the nest.
So that means like when I'm mowing my yard and I've got all these little flies and things coming up around the mower, around my legs, or you go out running across the yard and you get bit by things in the lawn, you see bees going down in the grass, it's bugs.
Yeah, if you see wasps and things like that hovering around, that's what they're doing. They're looking for grubs.
So when is the best time to put an insecticide down?
Well, unfortunately, there is no pre-emergent type for, or a preventative, let's say. Okay, there's no preventative for this. Basically, you just have to wait until you see some damage, but then act on it quickly.
So how often do you have to put this on?
Usually, this should last a couple of months.
Okay.
So it should only be maybe 1 or 2, depending on the season, depending on how hot it is. Again, it's variable. Can
the average person get any of this stuff, or do you need to have a license for any of this?
No, this is all what they call dual label. So all of it can be purchased with the homeowner.
Any consumer, any homeowner. How about weeds? Now, I see you got some Roundup here. That's a common name. We don't want to spray that on the lawn, obviously, to kill weeds. Where do you mainly use this for weed killing?
Well, what I did was I had a whole yard that we were spraying here that was very little grass. It was 90% weed. So what we're doing is we're spraying it completely out, and we're going to start over.
Okay. Sometimes that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Just kill the whole thing, start fresh.
Yep. Sometimes you just have to.
Or go to a dry scape, rocks, few plants, pour some concrete.
We're not going that far, but yes.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you taking the time, Rob, today. Like I said, I was glad I called you last night. This is really helpful to help the consumer, help the homeowner figure out what they need to do, when to water,
Sure.
how much to water, what kind of weeds, what kind of fertilizers we can use. So we'll be talking some more when we get into sprinkler systems. I know you're very experienced in sprinkler heads, drip systems, valves, things like that. So we'll get together and meet again. Thanks again.
Sounds good.
Thanks again
Thanks,
for
Bruce.
helping us out here at Adventures in Landscaping.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for another episode of Adventures in Landscaping. Thanks for joining us. We enjoyed talking with Rob and learning how we can have a beautiful lawn year-round. In the comment section below, please leave us an idea of what you'd like to see in a future episode. And we look forward to seeing you outside and working in those yards, and have a great time. Again, this was our second episode. We invite you back for our third, where we're going to talk about different types of plantings and how we can mix and match colors and textures. And we'll give you some ideas of other people's beautiful landscapes. So come on back again. Feel free to subscribe, and thanks for watching Adventures in Landscaping.